Are you listening?
Welcome to the Nerf Report. My name is Bryant, and for today's show, let's talk about Google Stadia and the PlayCrafting Game Jam that happened over last week. The Google Stadia Play Anywhere Game Jam was a week-long jam focused on bringing together independent developers to create local co-op Stadia experiences, who made up 10 separate teams with the potential of having their game added to the Stadia Makers program. Now, I am a huge fan of events like this because I say it all the time, and say it with me, guys, indie games are the heart and soul of the video game industry. In fact, if you look at some of the biggest games of the past few years, Fall Guys, Among Us, Hades, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, Stardew Valley, Phasmophobia, or even Hollow Knight, all of these games were indie games. We as gamers are so quick to assume that a game needs to be
AAA, 4K, 60 frames per second
in order to be good, but indie game developers prove time and time again that that is not the case. So last night marked the closing ceremonies, if you will, for the Game Jam, and each of the dev teams had a chance to show off said game. And I gotta admit, some of these genuinely blew me away, so I figured, hey, let's talk about it on today's show and give these indie devs some much deserved credit for their creativity. First up, we have Battle Billiards from Team Petrichor, a brand new 1v1 multiplayer game in which you play pool, but the catch is everyone goes at the exact same time, creating a frantic style of gameplay. And honestly, this game has a ton of potential. The characters look awesome, the sound effects are extremely hilarious, and I would love to see this idea expand to different shaped tables to alter the gameplay experience as well. Next up, we have Who's the Boss from Team Games Without Words. Now, this is a very unique competitive co-op game in which players will find themselves in an office where one player becomes the boss and is trying to capture the opposing players and send them to the dreaded performance reviews. Speaking of which, performance reviews this week. Jeff, I'm looking at you. The other players can then use things like furniture, phones, or emails to slow the boss down, but for me, Who's the Boss definitely looks like a fun time. All right, let's talk about Project Geofront from Team Geofront, and prepare yourselves for the ultimate kaiju first-person shooter game. Players will find themselves in a giant robot suit defending the city from invading squid-like aliens. Now, Project Geofront is a multiplayer game in which one player will fight off the aliens, and the other player is in charge of maintaining the ship and cooling down the guns. Kaiju video games are like the one thing we do not have enough of. Like, we got a million zombie games, but like very few kaiju games, and I want this game so badly. Up next, let's dive into the extremely cool looking game Fragments from Team Jump Button. Fragments is a beautiful multiplayer dungeon crawler Metroidvania style game. Immediately upon seeing this game, I was reminded of some of my favorites like Hollow Knight, Ori, or even Dead Cells. And honestly, Fragments not only looks fun visually, but the game's audio design is fantastic. I will be paying extremely close attention to this one, as I cannot wait to see what this team does next. Pride vs. Prejudice from Team Novel Idea is a multiplayer, roster-based competitive narrative game in which players will each get their own individual stories, where your choices not only affect your outcome, but can potentially impact the other player's experience as well. Act 1 of Pride vs. Prejudice was made in just 1 week, but the dev team explained that it includes 11 different character designs. The team's musician made 14 songs for the game, and Kara, the lead dev, wrote 20,000 words of dialogue for the game. That is a ton of work just for 1 week. All right, let's talk about Bushido bots from Walking Oni Games, and you know what? I'm just gonna let this game speak for itself.
Groove to the beat and take them out. Available anywhere toys are sold. Bushido Bots is developed by Waking Unit Games as part of the Play Anywhere Game Jam.
Bushido Bots brings the world of BattleBots to a brand new level. The game features 2 Bushido Bots who must duel to the death. The game is rhythmic and fast-paced, and players must move their way around the battlefield looking for the best way to strike their enemy. Up next, we have Cheese's Telekinesis from Team Angry Array, in which players will compete against each other to gain the favor of the god of cheese. Now, each player will have a halo over their head, and you must fill the halo up with light by jumping into the gaze of God. Players will also have superpowers that will allow them to prevent other players from filling up their halos, creating an extremely competitive experience. All right, let's talk about Jumbo Shrimpin' from Team Gum Buddies. This adorable multiplayer fishing game allows you to play as otters who must work on a fishing boat and must claim the most shrimp and fish. Jumbo Shrimpin' took inspiration from other games like Overcooked and Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time to create a really fun multiplayer experience. And I know I said this on Twitter, but these otters are adorable and we must protect them at all costs. Let's Make Something Weird from Team Mismatch Games tells the story of a scientist and their monster who must protect their laboratory from waves of enemies. Let's Make Something Weird also has a ton of depth that I wasn't expecting. The scientist's job is to defend the room and repair doors, whereas the monster must also defend the room, but if they take too much damage, their limbs begin to fall off, and the scientist must reattach limbs using body parts from dead enemies, with each body part having a different effect on the player's gameplay experience. Totally cool concept. And finally, we have Dog Walker from Team Dayjammers, which is a really cool dog walking simulator where up to 4 players can play as humans or dogs and explore this brightly colored world. This game immediately gave me Untitled Goose Game or Goat Simulator vibes, and the idea that you can play this as a dog creating chaos, or you can explore the world with friends as humans, sounds like a lot of fun. I would love to see more about this game. And like I said, seeing these games and their developers was extremely exciting for the video game industry. These games are unique and creative, and they look like loads of fun. Now, Google did clarify that they compensated all of the participating dev teams this week, and Stadia will be meeting with each dev team to discuss the possibility of bringing their games to Stadia via the Stadia Makers program. But what did you all think? Did any of these games stand out to you? Which one was your favorite? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, which who wouldn't, hit the subscribe button right there. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Maybe even consider becoming a Nerf Report best friend, just like the people listed down below did. In fact, don't you want to see your name there? I know I do.